Welcome to the Be Honest Man podcast, a discussion among men of various perspectives on subjects from the taboo to the typical. This is episode 21, and you will see that once again, we are missing Indy on an episode where we will be talking about relationships, exes, dating, whatever way you want to frame this. And I think that he's just coming up with reasons not to be here. You know,
What's he embarrassed about?
that's what we need to know. I mean, the fact that he planned the birth of his child for this day to get out of it is just unbelievable.
It's true. They did basically pick today.
Yeah.
Messed up.
Yeah. But yeah, no, so that's our way of informing you all that Indy is now a father. They had their son this morning, and so he is currently in that world and is not going to be here for this one because we scheduled for today, and he made sure he wasn't going to make this one. But we've already said it. Basically, we'll be talking about past relationships, things we've learned, experiences we've had, and things like that. It'll be somewhat similar to an early episode we had about modern dating, but more about us in particular, experiences we've had, and things like that. So without further ado, I want to know how many previous relationships we've had.
I mean, realistically, one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't count like, little kid relationships, essentially, like when
Yeah,
you're
if
really
you had
young.
relationships with little kids, don't talk about it.
Oh boy.
That just like when you're young and stuff like that, where it doesn't really count,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was, you had just the one and then the one you're in now. So that's not a previous relationship. That's a current relationship.
That's why I said one.
Yeah, exactly. I was just clarifying that it's not like you only had the woman you're married to now. Like there was
Yeah.
one other Jessica. So, which we'll get into. Chris is counting on his fingers because there's just so many.
I think I'm like 99% sure it's 7. Like
Damn,
7 relationships I would actually consider like actual relationships.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to count mine. I'm just going to say probably somewhere in the like 7 to 10 range as well. How old were you in your first relationships?
Ooh. I was in middle school, right? 8th grade.
I think you were 13.
Sure.
I think you dated her from 13 to 20 or 21, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
I was 15. So it was right around when I was getting my driver's license.
Oh, late bloomer. Just no interest in women? Like what? Why 15?
I don't know. Middle school felt like, I wasn't really ready for I wasn't ready for a relationship yet, so I was holding off until I was a little bit more mature, had contacts instead of glasses.
No, fair.
Yeah.
He was playing video games.
I would say I
Playing
was
Magic.
probably 14. Yeah. The freshman year I would say is like the first I remember I dated this girl and I want to say I think I dodged a bullet with that one, but who knows? Maybe they'll listen to the podcast one day and be like, "Wow, what an a-hole!" But like, I distinctly remember a
So
moment
much for honesty.
where I was like, I think I was just over it, and I don't fully remember. I mean, again, I was like 14 years old, 9th grade, freshman in high school. But I distinctly remember a point where my mom, she would have a bat behind the door and she'd say it's the hoochies that we bring home or whatever that is. And she said this like throughout my teenage years, despite the fact that I was not bringing anybody home. But when the first time I think I had this girl over introduced, when she left, I swear my mom said something along the lines of, "That's why I keep the bat behind the door, was for girls like that." And I'm just like, geez.
I don't remember any of this.
It might have been after that girl like ran to my house in the rain or something like that to try to like win me back or something. And I wasn't home. So she like ran over and did all that. But yeah, 14.
Romantic, dude. You should have gotten back with her.
Yeah. I think I did
He
the
pulled a
same thing.
notebook, bro.
No, I did
Yeah.
the same thing at a point. I remember I don't think it was a breakup or anything. I think she just said she was sad or something. I don't remember. But I like ran to her house in the rain and then she was there when I went. When she came to the house, I wasn't even home. So yeah. 14, so 13, 14, 15 roundabout. So we all started at roughly the same time. I'd be curious to know Indies, but I guess we'll have to ask him in the next episode, just randomly, just bring it up.
The quick rundown: your relationships go.
Yeah, let us know. And so I think we've probably all had the experience of this potentially multiple times, if you're not Sean, of just like a this is the one. Like she's the one, and when you break up, it's just like the worst experience ever.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
Didn't you say you had it when somebody was just like talking to a guy outside of the house or something? Like our neighbor? You said
Oh
it in an
yeah, no,
episode. Yeah.
yeah, no, I went off the deep end, bro. I thought it was like this is the end of the world. My girlfriend's talking to another boy, but that was
Just
really early on. Yeah, I didn't know anything. Like I literally just see them sitting next door, and I'm like, oh god, it's the end. Oh no.
Honestly, out of all of them, I could only think of one.
where afterwards you were like, that was it. That was supposed to be the.
Yeah, the rest of them, I never really envisioned a real future. It was just kind of like, if it happens, that's
Mhm.
I
You
guess I
hadn't
could deal
given
with
it the
that.
forethought.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was just
but
yeah.
there was only one relationship that I can think of where I was actually like, you know what, that was it. I missed my chance.
To be
Which
fair,
one
that
was
was
that?
also like.
Ashley.
Okay.
To be
Okay.
fair, I that was like my first real relationship, and I was convinced like day one that was gonna last forever.
You
We
were
went
so
to
13.
that Blink-182 concert. That was not that long after, right? That we
I don't know. I remember going,
me and
but
her started dating, and I told her I love her. And that was like 2
Nice.
weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in.
and
It was.
Dude.
she was an older woman. Sean was 13, she was 15, 16, something like that.
Basically a cougar.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I'm pretty sure she was 2 to 3 years older than you. So
She was, yeah.
yeah.
We only spent 1 year together in high school, I think.
hmm That's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Like
when you're young,
you're
that
going
that
into
dip,
sophomore high school and she's going to college.
yeah. Well, so
That's only weird when you say it like that.
Yeah, I know,
maybe it
but
was more than 1 year. I don't know, but either way, like when you're like at that age, it does seem a little weird. But like once you're out of high school, like that age difference doesn't.
Yeah.
no. I mean that is 100% true. Lots of people once they're in their mid 20s or later. I mean, you've got people 10 years apart, 15 years apart, and it's just like whoa. But imagine you're 15
62
and the
years apart.
person's born. Like that's nuts.
Weird.
So with that, yeah, it's weird. So with that situation of the one, I dealt with this recently actually. A girl I know was like, I broke up with the guy I was seeing. I thought we were gonna get married. I really thought this. Mind you, they've been together for like 6 months. Um, and she was just distraught. And I was like, look, you're not the first girl who thought it, and you're not the last girl who's gonna think it, nor guy, nor whatever. Like it's tough. It seems like the end of the world. And then a couple of weeks, a couple of months, like it's not, like that's just the way that it is. And maybe somewhere out there, somebody did, they got dumped or whatever by the one, I'm sure, whatever, if you believe in that. But a lot of people don't realize that they're going to bounce back, and most of the time they're going to bounce back a little quicker. I'm curious what your experiences are with that.
I mean, at the time, yeah, there was definitely the worst breakup I ever had. Probably second only to the first breakup I ever had, because that's the one that really hits you hard. Yeah, you're finally in this. You're finally in a relationship. You're like, I love her, and it just ends. So that's the worst. But I guess the feeling at the time where I thought, that was my best chance at getting old, having a wife and having kids, losing that at the time was like, yeah, I guess I'll just never date again.
I guess I'll just die alone.
Yeah, I mean that's it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I that breakup was weird because it was all my fault. It was completely me, and I'd already resigned from the relationship probably several months beforehand. So I didn't have a lot of emotional like I don't know, trauma at the time.
hmm
But down the road, you know, it wasn't so much like that upset about the relationship ending or missing that or anything like that. It's just how I ended it. Felt like a total scumbag.
Yeah, you ended up with some guilt because of the
Yeah.
way that it was handled and all that. You can always look back on, especially now as, 30 plus year olds, and you look back and you're like, man, when I was 16, I really didn't act as well as I could have in that situation. It's like, well, yeah, that's why adults would give us advice and we'd be like, yeah, okay, we know, trust me, we're not you. We know what we're doing. And now we look back and we're like, you were kind of a prick in that moment. Like, you really could have made a better
Yeah.
decision. You could have handled that better, but it's like, you don't have the tools at that age. Like, you think you're making the right calls and the right decisions and handling things in the best way. Sometimes you realize you're not, but you just don't know that there's a better way. So, I mean, you can't really like fully take blame for that sort of thing. What and to keep it on the same vein of breakups, what would you say is your best breakup experience? And I know for Sean, just just once, and just rehab. He'll
The
just
best and worst.
yeah, all in one.
Man, this is a tough one.
Or all yours bad, Chris? They're just not a single like semi decent breakup. It doesn't have to be a good breakup. I'm not saying a good breakup. I'm just saying the
I guess
best
a good breakup is just kind of like you mutual come together. You're like, you know what? Okay, this isn't gonna work.
I never had
Friends,
one of
and,
those.
and you like shake hands, you're like friends, and then you walk off. You know?
No, I've never had one of those.
Have all of
It's
yours
not.
been like
I mean, I guess they
all
haven't
rounds?
all been like bad, but I wouldn't say I've ever had like a good breakup. I guess the best one I had was just like, she just decided, maybe this isn't gonna work, and then in my head, I was just like, I don't think I really enjoyed being with you.
Wow.
Well,
I
then
didn't
yeah,
say
that's yeah, but that's like a best case. If
Yeah, I think that was the best breakup I had, where it was just she did the breaking up, but I was probably happier about it than she was.
there you go. All
You're over
right.
there like, thank God.
Yeah, a little bit.
Now I don't have to be the bad
Because
guy.
looking back at it, that was always the sketchiest relationship I had.
Oh wow, which one was that?
Shelby, not sketchy as in like she was sketchy. Sketchy as in like that was a relationship that never should have happened.
Oh, okay. I don't even remember Shelby, so it really shouldn't
Exactly.
have happened. Yeah. For
Yeah, me either.
me, I've had a couple that just kind of were several of them are due to my whole just not having interest and stuff like that, and those normally don't end exceptionally well because it's hard to understand. They don't get it, I don't get it, neither one of us necessarily want it, but that sort of thing. So they're not exactly pretty, but I would say ones where it kind of like it's weird. I've had relationships like that, but I've also had ones where, for instance, me and Polina, it just kind of ended. Like it was rocky, all that sort of stuff. And then one night there was, good night, and we just didn't talk for like 4 months, something like that. Like legit, we were on the rocks and we both said good night and we didn't talk for 4 months. That the relationship ended. And so that was easy in the sense that there wasn't the people sending each other texts, there wasn't arguing and screaming, there wasn't a I miss you coming through at 1 a.m. the next night, like it was just done.
Well, I guess
So
the better way to phrase it is not best breakup, but easiest breakup.
sure, sure, yeah. Well, that's what
Yeah.
I was framing as best. People might have had a different expectation
Yeah.
of best, but to me, I would say um, it was the easiest in terms of not having all the extra baggage and the arguments and all that sort of crazy stuff that can sometimes go along with it. So now we get to talk about the worst breakup. Sean's the same. So
No, it's legit. It's the same. It's gonna. I mean,
yeah, we just got to make stories up for you. This is Sean's not be honest pass to be able to
yeah.
just be like, yeah, well, there
I'm just
was.
gonna list a bunch. You got to figure out which one's real.
Yeah, there you go. So, Chris, do you have a worst breakup?
Oh man, I think the one that made me feel the worst was with Ashley. I think the breakup that took the longest was yeah.
Jasmine.
It took the longest in like two senses. In that we definitely should have broken up way before we did. And
Mhm.
even after we broke up, we were still talking and seeing each other.
Which is crazy. I mean, I fought tooth and nail for that one. I wanted that done months before, a year before I was over that. But yeah,
Now,
so
actually, the breakup that made me feel the worst wasn't even with Ashley. It was with Jessica, because that's the one time that I embodied Steven and just started ignoring someone.
I don't do that. Like you definitely did not explain that correctly. You got to the point you just didn't feel. You were just like I don't feel this right. Like it was just gone. Like you woke up one day and the feelings were gone. I don't ignore them, Chris. Like most of the time, I try to force myself through it, hoping that it'll go away, but it becomes unbearable over an extended period of time where you're just like apathetic in this situation, but you're still trying to live up to it. You're still trying to say, hey, come over. Yes, I'll spend time with you, but you have no desire to do it. And then, yeah, but I don't ignore. I hate ignoring. So I will tell you how I'm feeling. I will explain it and whatever. So those are my bad experiences. Are basically, you know, I'll use one, but this has happened again with multiple people. Not all have been really rough, but I remember dating Megan in college and trying to work through it. And in the end, she's in tears, I'm in tears, and I'm just like, I don't know how to explain this. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm tired of feeling this way. I can't do this anymore. And so that was a sucky one. Shout out to her though. She'll never listen to this, but she got married like 2 weeks ago, something like that. She got married this last year. I don't know why I said 2 weeks ago. I just completely pulled it. Maybe that's when I saw something like she popped up in a recommended friends or something, and she was married. But
Hell yeah.
Congratulations, Megan.
yeah,
Good
so
for
she's
you.
married. Yep, there's that. A lot of people are married actually. I guess we're at that age. You guys
Yeah,
are
we are
married.
kind of at that age, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are married. This one's not on the docket, but now I want to ask, who do you think's next to get married out of our friend group, men or women?
That is an impossible question for me to answer.
Um,
I'm not trying to say that to be mean, but like
They're all so
I
unlikely.
yeah, like I look at our friend group and where everyone is like in their relationship and life status, and it's just like, who could it be?
I'm gonna go with Cameron.
I'm going with Cameron as well.
I think Cameron could fall. He gets the right girl gets a hold of him, and
No.
6 months
My
or less.
honest opinion, if I had to pick right now, Liz.
I pick Cameron over Liz.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
I pick
me and
Liz.
Charles
I
are at the
feel
bottom.
like
Yeah. Honestly, I'd probably put Roland at the bottom,
oh shit, yeah.
then Jeff, then you and Charles.
You put Roland and Jeff below me and Charles. Roland, I get because he's basically he's like, I'm a hermit. I want
He's
nothing to
he's
do with it."
asexual at this point. Like
Yeah.
He does not care. He does not care. Not
I just
interested.
figured, maybe Jeff has the experience, and he's like, nah, not again, and then
Maybe.
that's that.
Maybe. Okay. But yeah, I'd go with Cameron. I agree with similar to what Sean said. I just think that he actually is interested in getting relationships. I think he wants to go through the steps and be married and stuff like that. And I know I'm not sure I even want to. And so he wants to do that. And if he finds somebody, I agree with Sean. It could be 6 months and a year because he has the next step. He knows like he wants to date somebody, to marry somebody, to, whatever. And so it'll be on his mind. And if he finds somebody that he's really into, then I see that happening.
He's got to find someone who's not freaking crazy.
Everybody thinks the other person's crazy.
Yeah,
Shout
I
out.
think that's debatable.
Shout out to whatever her name was.
We just shout out every person that we bring up. It's
Yeah,
every single time
we
it's like,
can shout out everyone.
Shout out to that person from our
The girl that he
past.
brought to Chris's wedding.
Yeah.
No, dude, she was chill.
Yeah. I don't think I really talked to her at the wedding or anything, but
I had a brief conversation with her.
I sat across from her. It was it was interesting.
Hmm. I'm
Oh, to
curious.
be fair, that was a rough breakup.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, nothing to do with our podcast or discussion, but it was just the whole way it played out, and like what was it, Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or
It was
something,
Christmas
or
Eve.
yeah, Christmas Eve, and just bad timing and all that sort of jazz.
Honestly, I think that's our next step. We can just talk about all of our friends' relationships now.
Yeah, that'll be the next episode. We get honest about our friends' relationships. You were saying your reasoning behind Liz. What is your reasoning behind, since we gave ours on like Cameron?
I just feel like Liz I think is more likely to get married first, not because I think she'll find someone that she wants to marry first, but I think she's more likely to just like snap decision, I'm marrying this person.
Or to
If
get
they're
Canadian
Canadian,
citizenship.
yes. If they're Canadian, then it's bam bam, I'm out of here. So
Yeah, I don't know if Canada has like a Las Vegas instant wedding option, but I think that could happen.
gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. That just popped into my head when we were talking about stuff. Is like, who do you think's gonna get married next? And to be fair to everybody listening, I mean, Chris is married, Sean's married, Indy's married, and that's most of our friend group. So yeah. All right. So how different is your current or most recent relationship versus like your first serious one?
I mean, I'm very different, just in my maturity level, and I went from being a 1-year-old to a 2-year-old essentially in my maturity level, and so I mean that in the way I interact and everything in that has changed drastically. But as far as the actual dynamic, as in the I don't know how to word this. So both of the women that I've been in relationships with have been, highly intelligent, very artistic, um, much more attractive than I should be able to pull. And it's just like I don't know,
If
man.
y'all ain't watching
Um,
on video, he's ugly.
it's ugly as sin.
But he can
Ugly as sin.
fuck.
You gotta listen to the last episode for that one.
Maybe that's it. No. Yeah, I don't know, man. I managed to pull some stuff off, and it's but it's the there's such drastically different times in my life that I don't know that, at least like where I'm at now. Like when we started this relationship, I was in a very similar place because that one ended, and then within a couple months I was in this one. Not purposefully, it just kind of happened that way. Between, say like, that relationship and where I'm at now, it's very different. I mean, the big thing with looking back on previous relationships is that just that your maturity level and who you were and all these things, like you said earlier, like you think you know everything then, and then you get to the point you're at now, and you're like, man, I handled everything I did in my life wrong, literally everything. And so I don't know, it's hard to compare that, especially only having the two examples to draw from.
But you don't have like a specific one or two things, like the way that you handle arguments
Oh, absolutely,
or things
everything,
like that. So
all of it's different. Literally everything's different.
okay.
On I know at some point we're gonna talk about like kind of what you should do, or I assume we're gonna talk about what you should do and what you shouldn't do at some point. But no, I mean just with all the things you look back on that you did wrong, I mean it's very easy to kind of figure out what to do in the future. You just have to have the maturity to do it, to actually you can talk about like, oh, you got to be honest in a relationship all the time. I did for years. I still wasn't. I just knew it was the right thing to do, but it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, just because you know it's the right thing to do doesn't mean you're going to do it. So, that's one of the things that's drastically changed. Actually doing the things that are hard.
What about you, Chris?
I mean, yeah. Literally everything is different. The only thing in common that I just thought of between my first relationship and now is that they were the only two Asian girls I ever dated.
Okay.
It's the only thing that was the same. I was 15 and I dated this girl, and her parents hated me,
That's fair.
not for any reason besides I was a boy,
Also fair.
which also fair.
Yeah.
But I do want to tell a story about that. Quick story. She, when I started dating her, she was like, I don't know, a few months from moving out of the state. So they were packing up their house and all that good stuff. And since her parents didn't like me, the only time we could actually see each other like outside of school was when her parents were away. I would go over to her house and we would spend time then. And I remember being over there one day. No one was in the house. We were in her garage and no one was supposed to be home. And then the garage door starts to open up. And I'm like, oh shit, I died today. And so, quick thinking, I jumped in one of their moving boxes and I hid inside of a cardboard box for 15 minutes while she talked to her mom in the garage.
Come on.
Yeah.
And now those are those I look back and go, why didn't she just get her mom in the house? Like, hey, I want to show you something, or hey, I think something broke, and instead just stood there talking for 15
I
minutes.
don't know. I didn't ask questions.
So how did you get your
I was
escape?
young.
She went inside, and then you just
She
busted
went
out of the
inside. I
box.
popped out. I was like, yo, open this garage door. I gotta go. And then I did, yeah. We happened to live in the same neighborhood, and that was before I could drive. So I walked out and I ran home.
I like
That's
it.
Yeah.
That's a
That's
good
awesome.
story.
But everything's different from then to now. It wasn't a very long relationship, but it was at the point where we never really argued about anything, so I didn't know how to handle an argument. Versus now, and I mean, even now, I don't argue. I don't like fighting because I don't like to argue. I have never yelled at anyone, so everything's just easier to handle. Any kind of problems or anything like that, it's just easier to deal with when you get older and you start to figure out and learn more about how these relationships are a partnership, and everything has to be, everything that you do and say and think about is probably going to affect your partner in some way, and that's just something that you got to learn, that I learned, that what I do and say affects more than just me.
Yeah. It's a lot of
And
responsibility. Sounds awful.
Yeah, no, it's awful.
Yeah. And you gotta be extremely empathetic, and you have to be able to.
We're gonna share that one. That's a clip. I'm gonna post it right to Mika's wall. Were you making a point, Sean?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you've just got to be very empathetic and understanding, and like he said, realize that everything you do and say are gonna have, effects and or consequences. So you've got to keep all of that in mind, pretty much with everything you do. Not that, and I don't want that to sound like you've got to be walking on eggshells or you have to get someone's permission to, feel or express yourself. But just if you care about someone, you've got to have the kind of forethought of like, how am I going to handle this? Is there like if you want to do something and you think that doing that thing may hurt their feelings, or you want to talk about something that may hurt their feelings, like you've got to do it, because it's going to come out eventually. Eventually, Chris is going to fight and yell,
But it's about being considerate to your
about
partner
being considerate,
and taking their thoughts into account when you want to bring these things up, when you want to say certain things, is to think
but
about
at the same time,
impacts.
you absolutely 120% have to be honest. So if you have to make those, even if you realize, what, there is no easy way to do this, I just have to do it.
So something else I'm really curious about is the biggest takeaways for things you don't like in a relationship. After going through your relationships or relationship, or even this one, maybe, I'm sure you've grown over the years you've been with your wife and Chris, from the first relationship until now. What are things you've realized that you don't mesh well with, or that you don't like in a relationship, Like, what are those things? It doesn't mean it's something that you can avoid. Maybe being honest is something you hate doing in a relationship, you know? Like, I don't know, but what are the things that you've come to realize you just don't like in a relationship?
Trying real hard to think of, something special, but it's like I think everyone hates the same things when they're in a relationship. You don't want to be with someone that's dishonest, that's gonna be hiding shit from you. You want to be able to
Yeah.
trust the person you're with.
I mean, the basic deal breakers, like
Yeah.
being able to trust the person in a relationship with, not wanting to be micromanaged.
Yeah, but so it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be massive big picture. It could be sharing a bed. It could be the toilet seat. It could be knowing that somebody else is asleep in the house and you got to be quiet. Open your minds, guys, and tell me what are the things that you just don't like in a relationship.
Over the past, I don't know, I want to say 2 weeks, we've we've had a neighborhood cat just kind of strolling around the house, or like around outside the house. So, we decided, let's put out a little bowl of food. So we put out a little bowl of food. Fast forward to today. We have 4 different cats that come to our house for food. And of course, my wife wants to adopt all of them. We have one in particular, looks just like our current cat, but is a boy, has huge balls. And my wife, this happened yesterday, 2 days ago. I put out some food for him. He was happy. I walked over to our guest house. I sat down at the computer while she made dinner. And she walked outside, started brushing the wild cat, and got scratched pretty bad. She was bleeding pretty good. And she still wants to adopt this feral cat.
So the thing you don't like about relationships is feral cat adoption.
I just don't want to adopt every cat. She wants to adopt the 4 feral cats we have here. Where she works, apparently, there's 1 or 2 other feral cats just hang around the store. She's like, I can catch them and bring them home. On the way to work, she's seen cats in the neighborhoods that she drives by. She's like, I can get those, and we can have those cats too. So I'm
30
like,
feral cats
babe,
later.
I can't live in a house with 15 cats. When you get married, that's basically you're deciding I'm not going to be the crazy cat lady. And then I told her, I was like, it's me or the cats. And I knew immediately when I said that. She was like, I'll take the cats.
Yeah, says the guy with nothing but a cat tree behind him.
But it's that one's in loving memory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
What
Gotcha.
you guys gotta, I mean, like there's no way that you guys have not realized things you don't like in relationships.
We don't try to focus on the negatives too, you know?
Like just going off of like your examples, right? I've never minded sleeping in the bed with someone else. I've slept in a bed with other men, and that's still fine. I've never had a problem leaving the toilet seat down. It's just second nature.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's
It's
the
tough, man.
having to get off the computer. Maybe it's somebody who's
You don't have to do
acting
anything.
like
You're
your
a grown
mom.
man.
I'm just saying, like any of these
Honestly, the
things.
only thing that I don't like, and this just isn't just in relationships, just in general, I don't enjoy, or rather, I can't fall asleep if I'm cuddling someone. Can't do it.
Okay.
I don't like cuddling for more than like 5 minutes.
Then you got to break away.
Yep, and I will. I'll just pull my arm out and roll over.
Do you like being the big spoon or little spoon?
Little
Like,
spoon.
does that make a difference?
It does, yeah. I much prefer to be the little spoon.
Yeah. Could you fall asleep being the little spoon?
I can, yeah.
Yeah. So that's
It's life-changing.
Because then you're not the one whose arm
You
is
get-
stuck under.
yeah, I was
like,
saying,
you're,
you
you're
get the
chilling.
position.
You're laying the way you want to lay, and they're
Yeah.
doing the work. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
I'm a
Nice.
left side sleeper. So like but I sleep on the left side of the bed. So like I can't be the big spoon and sleep comfortably. So I get it.
Okay. And Sean, there's not a single thing that you've learned you don't like in a relationship, a certain feature of it, nothing.
Nothing I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, not. I've been very lucky with the people that I've been in relationships with. You know, I mean, if you were to ask them, they've probably got, a library list, but like I just don't I don't
Well,
know.
this isn't even like specific to a person, right? I'm thinking of maybe you don't like relationships that take up too much of your freedom or too much of your time or just any little things that having to be responsible for somebody else's happiness. Like maybe you're like, God, that is awful. Like I hate that in a relationship. I know those are like extremes that you probably wouldn't be in a relationship if they were true, but I just expected some
I
sort of
know I
self
know you
growth.
want something, but like I just don't have anything for
I
you.
just can't
Yeah.
believe that neither one of you have any sort of self growth realization. Like,
Well, no, I mean, it's like Sean said, it's not something you typically think about or focus on. So, I mean, if
Yeah.
you have anything, maybe stir up something for us.
I tried to give different examples, nothing works. So I don't know. I guess we'll just
We're just
go
happy,
along.
bro. I don't know what to tell
I
you.
guess we're
Yeah,
just happy. Yeah. I
I
mean, I figure things not liking, for me, and a lot of this is one of the reasons I probably tend to stay single for as long as I do is giving up things. I'm having to make decisions for others based on their wants and their needs and how some like the sacrifices that you make. Like that's not all sunshines and rainbows. Like anybody who's like, oh no, I really love giving up raid night to go do that thing, or I really enjoy missing my favorite show so we can go to the opera. Like, yes, you do it. Yes, you know why you're doing it. But those can be things that you might not necessarily enjoy in a relationship. And maybe you've learned that you don't like something or you do like, let's just completely switch gears. What's something you have learned you do like in a relationship?
Uh, I think
Sex.
no, that's number two. That's number two.
Butts.
No, I don't know. But I mean,
Boobies.
like immediately right off the top of my head, I was like, blowjobs.
Turns
That was
out,
pretty fucking
great.
cool, dude. I remember the first time I got a blowjob.
Okay. What anything else you guys have discovered that you do like in a relationship? Maybe it's being a little spoon. Maybe it's somebody who listens more and you didn't experience that or you didn't realize how important maybe back in the day you thought, I don't care if they listen when I talk. And now you're like, I really like somebody who will sit there and listen.
Yeah, definitely being a little spoon. That was great. Never had that growing up. Yeah, the companionship is nice. And honestly, yeah, just having someone now that I know that I can talk to about literally anything, and I know that, she won't judge me for it, and she's going to try her best to help me through whatever it is I'm going through. And that's not something that I ever did with anyone that I've dated before because I never liked talking about anything like that.
And so
Even
now,
even like today, I am still not great at sharing my feelings, and my wife will tell you that. But it's been just a long process learning how to do that. So having her always there to help me with that's the number one thing.
and that's something that you didn't necessarily know or realize how important it would be in like previous relationships. But now
Yeah,
let's
because
say you
I never
ended up
talked to yeah.
in the
Yeah, I never
future, that
talked
would
to
be
anyone like that
something
before.
you would look for in the future, right? Like if something came, whatever,
I was about to say, what are you
split.
trying to say, bud?
No, I'm saying like if you guys split, like that would be something like
Ow.
you would look for in a future relationship. You'd be like, I need somebody who I can talk to.
Yeah, I think in, the event that my wife and I are ever apart, I might just date dudes.
Okay.
Just bro it up.
Sean,
Oh, yeah, it's fair.
what about you? Something that you've realized that you like in a relationship? Maybe something that wasn't in your first relationship, maybe a certain way that you interact, maybe you want more
See, this with all of these
laughter.
questions would be so much easier, like if I had any bad relationships. You know what I mean? Like
I
my
don't I don't think it has to
I
be a bad one. There could just be
I
something that you
just
realize that you didn't have, and now that you've experienced, you're like, oh, actually, you know what? I do like. I do like
I'm
that.
not saying that it had to be bad. I'm just saying that like it's I just it's one of those things like I for some reason like I just have nothing. I just got nothing for you. Like I'm sitting there, I'm trying to think about it, and I'm just like I like everything about my relationship, but I can't like grab one thing out of it and say like this thing is something that I didn't realize. It all just seems. I guess is maybe I'm just forgetful, or I just wipe things from my memory as I go on. But like everything that makes a good relationship just seems very basic, and I've pretty much realized a lot of those things, that I didn't know before, and it just doesn't even seem like, oh, I like this more than this. It's just like that's just the way it should be. So I just don't know if I could like having someone to do stuff with and listen to you and uh I don't know, man. Like it's just being in a relationship. That's it. Like just
Can I try rephrasing the question?
for
Things you didn't realize were as important as you do now in relationships. So something that maybe in your first relationship, Chris, maybe in your first 3 or 4 that you didn't realize were important, and now you realize when it comes to being in a relationship, these are very important things that you place emphasis on that you didn't necessarily do before.
just gonna say the same thing. Honesty. Honesty is so important. I mean, it
I
is.
mean, honesty for me was pretty important in those first few relationships, and it worked out for none of them. So, well,
I
one
don't
out of
know,
three,
man.
one out of three.
If
But yeah,
I could have saved, I don't know. It could have made a big difference in not only that relationship, but like going, early on, and a lot of our early years in this relationship could have been much better. Um, if just honest instead of bottling everything up inside.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you realized was important in relationships? And for you, maybe in particular, something that's important, or just in general, other than honesty? It could be time spent together, it can be laughing, it
Sure,
can be
someone who will show interest in the things you're interested in.
okay.
Because you know me, I will have a new thing that I am completely obsessed with and is my life about every week and a half. Um, and my wife will at least feign interest for a short period of time, till I drive her crazy with it, and she says, "Please stop talking to me about this thing." Yeah, so that's cool. That's important. I think. I mean, to me,
Yeah. I think most people would agree. Somebody who can at least listen and hear you share your passions and things like
yeah,
that. And I also think on the flip side, people enjoy listening to people's passions. Can it go overboard? Absolutely. But
absolutely, I can.
I've heard on numerous occasions where people have been like, I've been complimented on the fact that like I'll talk about something like, I can tell you're passionate about that. Like I like that. Like I like that you're passionate about that. And I'm like, World of Warcraft, and you like that? But yeah,
I'm talking about raiding.
yeah. What about you, Chris?
you know,
World of
don't
Warcraft.
date shitty people, right? Just like I know it's vague, but like, don't date someone that is just not a good person. You know,
Mm-hmm.
So essentially,
that's what I learned.
you know,
Really, when you're gonna date someone, really make sure that you feel like there's some good in there.
yeah, use your brain, not your penis,
You're
to do
not
the
just
thinking.
yeah.
I said this was it yesterday, I think, on the stream, maybe the day before, somebody brought up, and I think I have a really good track record of dating kind people. Somebody asked like, well, what's one of your turn ons or something like that? And I was just like, something that I'm attracted to is kind people. Like genuine people that when I talk to them, I'm like, this is somebody who would do good. And that's something that I dislike. And I think that's helped me in not dating people who have been horrendous to me and lied about a bunch of stuff and cheated as far as I know. Knowingly, I've never been cheated on. Like, as far as I know, it doesn't mean it's never happened. Don't trust anyone. But, I haven't been told or found out about it. And I think part of that comes to I don't date crappy people. Like, I don't look at it in that way. I try to date good people, kind people, because I would hope that that kindness would extend to myself.
I guess I just got lucky. I mean, both people I dated were just fantastic human beings, so
Yeah, I think I've just always had like real bad codependency issues. Because if someone from the outside looked back and read like a book about my life, you would see that like any time a woman at any point in my life showed interest in me, I was like, yeah, let's fucking do it, dude.
we're meant to be together. I could
Yeah.
feel it.
Would you say that's different now?
Oh, he's married,
Yeah.
bro.
Well, yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, maybe in the last one and in this relationship, was it the same? Like, were you still just like, oh, somebody's showing interest in me, I'm jumping on this, like, I'm codependent?
So I think this was the first one where I kind of deviated from that because the length of time between my last relationship versus when I started dating my wife was like the the longest I've been single since I was like 16.
I
Just
just,
after I broke up with that last person that I dated, that's when I kind of just sat down and was like, I need to stop this. I need to break the cycle.
I want to step in here and just point out this question that I had asked, right? About
Uh-huh.
how different is your current and most recent experience versus this one, and things that you've learned. And y'all couldn't tell me nothing, but here you are, like, oh yeah, I learned that I was codependent and I needed to break out of that. Thank you for
Yeah,
answering the
I'm
question.
not on the spot now. I evolved, I
You've gotta
worked my way into the answer.
I don't think it's a problem with us. I think it's a problem with the interviewer,
Oh, okay. God, I was giving like a bajillion examples. Like, no, dude, there's literally nothing at all. And then we get to other
Life's
topics.
perfect.
Well,
Everything's
yeah,
perfect.
you pick some dumb things. What are you not like sleeping with someone, leaving the toilet seat up? How about codependency?
I
It
said
is.
things about like needing people and having to give up things, and like you're just the other side of it.
I did so. I did realize. So after my first relationship, I as far as my interest in dating, I wasn't single very long before I got into dating. At that a young age, and so by the time I got in my early 20s, and I just decided, you know what, I'm emotionally not in this anymore, and I've faked it for a little while. But then I just became essentially just became emotionally um unfaithful, and started talking to other girls and stuff like that. Didn't do anything, physical, but and I thought, I'm gonna do the single thing. I want to be single. I've never been single, and I was convinced like I'm gonna do that. And I was single for probably like 3 weeks, and or less, honestly. And there's been other times in life, like me and my current wife when we were dating, we broke up at one point because I went through the same thing. I got up one day and I was just like, you know what? I'm not in this anymore. I want to be single. I've never been single. And so like I did it again. And then I was out there, and I was doing my thing, and I was like, man, I'm single. And this fucking sucks. And I was like, yeah, I can go in here and I can, do this stuff with these people, but it's just not really I'm not happy, like, and I realized like I like being in relationships. Like looking back, I'm like, I feel alone, even I mean, you'll have those little spurts of time where you're with people, and being intimate or even going on dates, whatever, but like outside of those moments, like I remember feeling just so insanely alone all the time. And it wasn't just that like I was physically by myself. It's just that like I knew that there was no one, you know? And I was just so used to having someone since pretty much at the age where I started to express interest, like since then I'd been in relationship. And
Yeah.
so like I don't get that that longing anymore. Like early on in a relationship, you get those times sometimes you're like, man, to be single, to be, more confident as I am now, and maybe a little more fit, be kind of ruggedly handsome as I age, I go out there, but like no, not at all. It doesn't ever cross my mind. Like I've realized like I'm insanely lucky to be where I'm at, and I'm just that I guess that's something that, the interviewer also didn't really ask, an appropriate question, but like I realized that like I don't want to be alone.
All right. That's good. as we know, I have been single more than I've been in relationships. So it's one of those weird things where we grew up in the same house, raised by the same mom, and he's been in two relationships that have essentially spanned 2 decades. And if you piece all my time in relationships together, might be 2.5 years, like legit, if you piece them all together. So that's a lie. Probably 3 to 3.5, actually. But yeah, it's just the differences and the fact that you're single. And so I have definitely had the times where you say that you got that feeling of like, oh, I could be single, whatever. And I guess that's just me always. Like I'm just always like I could be single, and so I am. I am single because I'm always like so.
See, is there anything that you've realized, from relationships in the past that like looking forward, like if you were looking for a relationship, I know it's maybe not on your radar now, but if you were to sit and think like this is my experience thus far, like this is kind of what I'm looking for. And I know some of your answer. We talked about this recently, but
I would say I would be interested in somebody who maybe shares some of the same knowledge, interests, or passions. Where I've dated, we'll go back to Megan. Um, Heavily religious. I'm not religious at all. Insanely talented musician. I play nothing. I'm not a music expert in any way, shape, or form. I'm
No
not any.
talent.
Yeah, no talent. And she could sing.
a
She could play
talentless act.
guitar. She could do piano. She was beautiful, and
She
I'm
was
like,
nice.
that's what I'm saying. She was so nice, and I'm like, I play video games all the time, and I work in I work in video games. Like I work out, I guess you could put that in there. So like I work out, I like to game, I work in video games and competitive gaming. I'm really competitive. And I can't say that I've ever dated somebody who was even remotely close to being a gamer. Like anywhere close. I know a girl I dated, Heather, back in like when I was first going off to college, is actually like anti-gaming. Like she like doesn't want to date people who play video games. And I'm like, how did we end up? Like that was my thing. And it's been my thing for a really long time. And so that would be something I look for, is somebody where we share more common interests. So it's not as much of, okay, I need to support this thing that I have no interest in for this person, and they have to support this thing that they have no interest in, to like a shared interest. For instance, most of them at some point that I've dated when I was a streamer made accounts and would come in the stream every once in a while. Never like consistently, never were like active supporters or anything like that. They just knew I did it and they were like, okay, do your thing. It would be interesting to have somebody who was more in it and supportive in terms of the gaming and stuff like that. So that's just one that pops into my head.
So
Other
someone
than
who could
that,
put their computer, beside yours, and you could raid together.
no, it doesn't have to be anything that serious. Like legit, it doesn't. But an understanding of the streaming, an understanding of gaming, an understanding of the hobby and the passion, to the at least supportive of it, instead of just like, okay, it's something you do, but I have no interest in.
Could you date a casual, like someone who just casually plays WoW or something?
Sure, because they would at least know things and understand things. And again, I
What
can
about
date
like
people
a
who
cell
don't.
phone gamer? They're like, I'm a gamer and they play cell phone games.
Like just Candy Crush.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're a crusher.
yeah,
But
I
she's
don't.
really good at Candy Crush. But
Like
she
top
sends
top
you like extra
top
life
1%.
requests.
Well, it would just depend on if she. Again, it's the more so the understanding and the support and the showing interest in that sort of thing. Like I want to be able to say it and there's legitimate excitement for me. I think that would be something that would be really nice. Outside of that, I think, again, I said earlier, somebody who's kind. Like I wouldn't give that up. So somebody who shares common interests, and even outside of gaming, just somebody that I can do more with, and we have the desire to do some of the same things. I don't want a they like to do this and I like to do that, and we are both sacrificing to do the other instead of why don't even there will always be some things you might not want to do, right? That the other person does. But if that's most of the things, if most of the things are, oh, they want to go to the flower place and you want to go here, you hate going to the flower place, they hate going to the whatever the other option is. And it's always like that. It's, oh, they want to go to the opera, you hate the opera. You want to go to axe throwing, they hate axe throwing. And like it's just that is something I wouldn't want.
Yeah.
Too much
Operatic
looking
axe
past stuff.
throwing though. That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Axe throwing with just opera music playing, or you have to do
Yeah.
opera while throwing the axes.
Yeah. No, that's I mean ultimate control, you know what I mean? You gotta hold the note and throw the axe. No, I mean that's actually incredibly big in a relationship. It's something that, I'm very lucky to have. My wife sat beside me last night as I was playing Total War Warhammer 2 yesterday, and I explained to her like all the lore and history of the Dark Elves and this king and why he wears this armor, and then this is what he did, and this is how he got all burnt up, and this is their kingdom, and they're trying to do this and they do this, and then there's this big warp thing, and I'm explaining this whole thing, and she's just listening, and I'm like, nice. This is really nice.
And
You
sometimes
know?
that's all you need. Like and the fact that she understands that and will sit there and listen to you talk about it. And I bet she's happy to hear it because she's happy to hear
Yeah.
you be happy and positive
Yeah.
and passionate about something.
And the
that's
thing is,
important.
like, she doesn't have to be into it. The same thing. You know what I mean? It's kind. I get what you're saying. Like, it's not like she's like, oh, nice. I am gonna, I'm gonna tell you now about the other Warhammer faction. It's like, no, she has no
Imagine, though.
interest in it. She's
You're like, so the dark out. She goes, yo, but let me tell you about, and then insert other one.
yeah. So I mean, it's definitely a big thing to have someone to listen, and it's not just, obviously this goes both ways, right? Like, she will talk about some chemistry stuff or the knitting thing she's doing, or the plants. She's really into plants right now, or the pottery when she was doing that. And I have no idea what the hell she's talking about, but I'll sit there and listen, and and be like, yeah, that one's pretty. What is it? Like, but it has to go both ways. You have to. It's kind of like valuing the other person's like interests and time.
I think that at the point where it turns into where it goes from like you feel like you're sacrificing something, or you feel like things like your interests just don't align, and when that turns into you actually appreciating what they're saying and they're appreciating what you say, once that changes is that's when you realize you're going from like a relationship to something more than that.
Yeah.
So that
Another
would be like one of the checklist to say, okay, this is going to the next level. We've gotten to this point.
Yeah, once it doesn't feel like a chore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you're
It's
just
Like if
also
the person like if the person you're with is like, I want to do this, and you're like, I'd rather fucking die. Once you start thinking, you know what, I don't want to die, then you can kind of take the next step.
there also comes up, an important thing in a relationship is it comes back to the honesty, right? But being honest with yourself as well. So I may want to go to I don't some sort of gaming convention or a gun show or something that my wife's just not it's not her thing, right? And she may feel obliged to go, you know. Um or I may feel like I want her to go even though I know it's something she's not into, or whatever the circumstances are, but it is okay to do stuff by yourself. It is okay for your partner to do stuff by their self.
It is
You
healthy
know?
if you do things by yourself.
Yeah, you don't always have to do everything together. That is something that you will definitely learn as, you go on in relationships, but also have to learn or your relationship will not last.
So that would be
Steven has
something.
something funny to say.
I'm assuming that both of you have learned that over relationships, that you don't have to do everything together and you need separation.
Yeah, thankfully Chris is been really good about asking, bringing up good questions.
Yeah, I'm bringing it together. I'm trying to pick up all the pieces that you're dropping.
Yeah, Steven just kind of took like this
You're
topic.
giving us like the puzzle pieces. I'm making it a puzzle.
Chris Steven just threw it at the wall, and Chris is just connecting the dots and making it all make sense.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for answering the questions. Now,
you're welcome.
It's meant a lot that you guys.
Now that we got a clear view of what you were asking, it was a lot easier to answer.
Yeah, it took time to sink in.
Clearly,
you gotta let it steep.
Thank you all for listening. You can head on to BeHonestMan.com where you can find all of our socials as well as the different podcast platforms where you can find the one to listen to that suits your needs. Until next time, be honest, man.